Okay, so here we are. Monday, a new month, a new week. Monday, April the 3rd, or Tuesday, April the 4th. And it's Jim. And I think Jory is taking the day off. She came down with a headache. And so we had, like I was explaining to some folks, we're having some work done on the house today. And they painted something, and the fumes came into the house, and it's I have a little bit of a headache, but not like, apparently it hit Jory harder. So I think she's going to take the day off. Maybe she'll come down, but we'll find out. Anyway, I miss her already, and I know you do too. I love it when all of us are together, but I'm also really in favor of people taking care of themselves. So that's the number one theme of this practice group is self-care and self-responsibility. And so throughout the call, if you need to do anything to take care of yourself, please do so, including turning your camera off for a while, or taking a bio break, or stretching your back, or whatever works for you, in order to make sure that your needs are as met as possible during our call. And today's topic, we're working with relationships. And I love what Patricia said when she first came onto the call a few minutes ago. She kind of realized that we have lots of relationships, that often when we hear the word relationship, we ascribe it to a particular relationship, like our partner or whatever. And hopefully the information that we're working on over these last few weeks is about how to navigate all relationships, whether they're romantic, business, neighborly, even people that you're just meeting for the very first time and you may never meet them again, like you happen to sit next to them on the bus. The same kind of skills can support us in creating more connection. So that's the overall topic. We've been talking about it for about, I think this is the 10th week. And so today we're going to summarize some things and do some self-reflection on what we've been learning, and create some clarity about what you want to do from now on in relationships based on what you've learned here and what you've integrated. So that's the overall plan. We will do what we usually do. We'll start with a self-connection exercise in just a second, which is an opportunity to use nonviolent communication just with yourself. And then we will make small groups where you get a chance to practice honesty and empathy. Honesty, the speaking part of nonviolent communication, and empathy being the listening part. And I'll give you more tips about how to make those small groups work well. If you don't want to be in a small group, you can put an equal sign in front of your name. And that will let me know when I make the groups that you prefer not to be in a small group. After that, we'll get back together in the large group, hear from a few folks about anything that's important to be said. And then we'll launch into the content that we have planned for you today. So with that, unless there's something up for anybody, we can dive in with a self-connection exercise. Anybody got anything else before we do that? Okay. So
actually, yes, I do. Sorry. I have a technical question. Does anyone know how to get the strip at the top of your Zoom screen to go away, so I can't see the tops of people's heads on the top row? Does anyone know?
Oh, what is this? What does it look like to you? What do you see there now?
Yeah, I know. I know.
Siva, yeah.
Yeah, I just did it. Thanks for asking. There's in the upper left, there's a green button. You see in your upper left, there's a green button, and put your mouse on it.
No, I don't have that green button. That's okay. I'll work it out. Let's keep going.
Do you have an X on the top right?
No, I'm on an iPad. I don't know if that makes a difference.
Oh, try just moving your pointer or your down the screen, and I think all that other stuff will disappear on an iPad.
No, that's not working. That's okay. I really don't want to hold things up, so I would really like to continue. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so let's do our self-connection. And just start by noticing that you have a body. What do you notice about your body right now? Are you looking at it to notice it? Are you noticing some sort of sensations in your body? Are you noticing your breathing? That's a good place to anchor into the body, is the breath. We breathe between 10 and 20 times a minute. Just notice that you're breathing. You don't have to try to change anything about it. Just get into the rhythm of the breath. And as you breathe, just consider that each breath is like a gift. You're receiving the gift of oxygen. And savor this gift that you receive with each breath. Just bring some mindful gratitude that without any conscious effort, most of the time, you receive this gift. Maybe 20 times a minute. And receiving the gift of life. And when you exhale, you're giving. You're giving away something that you don't need, which is carbon dioxide. And it turns out to be a gift for plants. So every time you inhale, you receive a gift from the plants. And every time you exhale, you're giving back what plants need. What's it like to notice this interdependence, that you're a part of a system, an ecosystem of plants and animals? And with each breath you take, you're engaging in this relationship with all life. And then notice what your body's feeling right now. And as you inhale, see if you can name the feeling for yourself. In each breath, there may be more than one feeling. Or maybe there's just one feeling, and each breath maybe is a different feeling than the one before, or maybe it's the same. Just stay present with the breath and name the feeling on the inhale of each breath. So I'll just do mine out loud for one or two rounds so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. Inhaling, I'm feeling curious. Inhaling, I feel wonder. And now you do it for a few rounds. Feelings can be either emotions, sensations, first you notice the feeling on the inhale, then you name it. And let that go for a second and consider the exhale, the gift part. So now every time you exhale, see if you can connect to your heart and the need that's important to you right now. Could be more than one need. Could be the same need over and over again. Could be different each time. So on the exhale, you notice what you're needing or what you're valuing. Understanding. Learning. So on every exhale, you name what's important to you. And then combine the two together. On the inhale, name the feeling. And on the exhale, name the need. So I inhale and I notice curiosity. And I exhale and the need is connection. Inhale and the feeling is irritation. And exhaling, the need is clean air. And now you can do it for a few rounds. Feeling on the inhale, need on the exhale. Then on the next exhale, just stay with the body to finish up the exercise. And notice how your body feels after taking this time to just be with your breath, with your interdependence, with your feelings and with your needs. What's it like in your body right now? I've got some small groups ready for you. Most of them are groups of 3, a couple of groups of 2 for reasons that are a little baffling to me. But we'll do this for 9 minutes plus 1 at the end. And so what do you do in the small group? This is a chance to live nonviolent communication together. That's the main purpose. And so you're just going to hang out. In other words, you get to hang out with other human beings and talk about what's going on for you, basically, maybe about this exercise, or there's something going on in your life that you want to talk about. Then you could share a little bit about that, but briefly. Keep the shares brief, because there's only about 3 minutes for each person. And then switch to the next person, so that everybody has a chance to connect, and you get a chance to listen to 2 people and speak to 2 people. So groups of 3, about 3 minutes apiece, just checking in, introducing yourself and saying how you are in the moment. And we will come back here in 10 minutes. Okay, see you soon.
That was enlivening. Yeah, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
Bob.
And well-being. I'll stick with that.
You're welcome. Yeah, it'll be a theme for the whole day. Maybe that's why it came up for me. This theme of
Oh,
yeah. Great. So here we are. You're back from your small groups. Recording is back on. We've had some new people arrive. And I'd just love to open up the floor to see if there's anything that anybody would like to share with the large group before we dive into the content for today. So if you don't know how to raise your hand, on the bottom of your screen, at least on the bottom of my screen, is a bunch of little buttons, and one of them says reactions. And if you click on that one, it will give you a chance to raise your hand. And then I'll see it. Although I can probably also, yeah, go ahead, Pooja.
Yes, so this is something that came up as part of the meditation, that as we breathe, there is such a natural interdependence between us and nature.
Yeah.
So I felt a sense of oneness. And then at the same time, I felt anxiety, because the thought that crossed my mind is that how do I do this with other people? Like the interdependence part.
Yeah.
And I don't have a good answer to them.
Right. That's probably why you're here. If you had all the answers around relationships and interdependence, you probably wouldn't be in a group about relationships and interdependence today. So we're all in the same boat together. We're all here to learn how to navigate relationships. Something that we all need, and yet something that can sometimes be really, really challenging for us. Anybody else have anything to share? Okay, then. If you don't want to talk, I will. That's all right. We got lots of opportunities to connect some more as we keep going. So we're going to do some writing today. So if you need a minute to get yourself settled with a journal or something like that, hopefully part of what we'll do today will include some writing, chance to do some self-reflection. I'm going to share my screen with you and introduce the topic, and it's kind of review what we've been doing. We've been working on resilience, relationships and resilience for pretty much the whole year. Here it is April already. And so it's been a very deep topic, and we've explored it in a lot of depth. And we were inspired originally because at the end of last year, we were doing, we were exploring resilience, and we ran across some data that said the most important part of having resilience is having relationship. And so we decided, well, if that's the most important thing, then we really, it'd be time well spent to focus on how we can create more connected relationships. And so we've been working with this, what's it called? Like an acronym or mnemonic device. Mnemonic device, not a demonic device, a mnemonic device, something to help you remember things. And it's I giraffe. So the I being right in the center, and then giraffes being spelled around the circle. And so just by way of brief review of what we have covered, the first thing we talked about was intention, and how if you want to have the relationships that are likely to be more connected, it's important to clarify the purpose of the relationship, the intention of the relationship. And the more involvement there is in a relationship, the more important it is to take some time to define the purpose. This can be a really quick thing. We're doing this anyway. We're doing it mostly unconsciously, but for me, a lot of what nonviolent communication is bringing to conscious awareness that which we're doing mostly unconsciously, so that if we do it more consciously, we might be able to do it more effectively. And so, for example, if you are thinking about a primary relationship, somebody like a husband or a wife or a partner, or maybe even like a housemate or a business partner, taking some time as you're forming the relationship to clarify and come to consent on the intention of the relationship is something that's been very, very helpful for us, Jory and me specifically. The second thing is identity. Who are you? And who do you want to be in your relationships? So this is like a deeper level of purpose. Who do we want to show up as? And I know for me, I spend some time each day kind of coaching myself that I want to show up as the best version of myself. It's like I just heard that on a TV show last night or something like that. But I really want to be the best version of myself that's possible. And that takes inner work, and it takes some self-empathy and some visioning. And we're going to work a little bit with that today as well. And then we talked about gratitude. So let's do a really brief practice of gratitude right now, and think of one relationship that's really important to you. And just name who that person is, just for yourself. Then think of one thing that this person did for you or with you that made your life more wonderful. Some kind of a contribution or a gift that you received from this person. And then write down what the gift was. What did the person say or do that you consider a gift? Could be something as simple and mundane as Jory made me a piece of French toast for lunch. One brief sentence.
Would it be something as simple as listening?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
A friend listened to me for 10 minutes earlier today. That would be great. Anything that you can describe, any kind of behavior that you can describe would work. So this is practicing the basic nonviolent communication skill of observation or observing, to be able to name a behavior in order to create some connection around it. And then to deepen the experience of gratitude, think about what need of yours was fed when the person did whatever they did. In my case, it's pretty easy because they fed my need for sustenance. Jory made French toast for me for lunch, and it met my need or fed my need for sustenance. What was it about for you? And then, how do you feel about receiving this gift right now? So now you don't need the screen, you don't need a list, you just need your body. You think about receiving this gift from the person, and what do you notice in your body? I notice a full belly, kind of a sweet taste in my mouth, a smile, an open heart. What do you notice in your body as you remember receiving this gift? Then imagine or write down how you might express this gratitude to the other person. Probably just take you 20 words, maybe 30 words. How could you express your gratitude using what you've learned so far here? So I imagine I'm with Jory. I make eye contact with her. And I might start by saying, you did something earlier today that I really enjoyed. Would you like to hear about it? She says, yeah. I said, well, I asked you to make me French toast before the class. I was running out of time, and you made French toast, and it really contributed to some ease and some well-being and sustenance for me. And I really feel grateful and full that you did that. How do you feel when you hear me say that? So that's what I might say. That was about 35 words. Then imagine saying it to the person in your mind's eye, in your imagination. Imagine saying it to the other person. and imagine how they might respond to hearing your warm gratitude. And if you're curious about how your gratitude lands, you could end on a clear and present feedback request. You could finish up your gratitude by just adding, how do you feel when you hear me say that? Let's hear from 2 or 3 people about how do you imagine the other person would feel if you delivered this gratitude to them? What do you imagine you would see or hear from the other person if you actually told them what you were grateful for? Who's willing to share what your guess is? Yeah, Gail.
Well, it was very funny what this topic is because during the check-in, my son called me. And the reason I was calling him is to thank you for the conversation the day before when he told me, Mom, I sense you judging me, which I appreciated the feedback. So it just gave me a sense of safety and trust that it was both ways. And he had no idea of the impact to have truth in our relationship. But I didn't have these words that I wrote now for gratitude, which I could in the future.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so you imagine if you actually delivered these words, he would enjoy hearing them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, great. Tanya.
So thanks a lot, Jim, for this exercise. This is almost on the line of what I call it Jim and Joy hat trick of thinking what you don't like and then flipping it to what you do like. And I was stewing about something all day that had absolutely nothing to do with my partner. And then you invited me to do this, and I thought about my partner and how much fun we have giggling in the morning in bed before we get up. And I just went like, holy cow, here I am stewing on something that brings unhappiness when I could have been thinking about something that brings happiness.
Yeah, beautiful. And if you shared this with your partner, what do you imagine their response would be?
Oh, their face just lights up with enjoyment. Yeah.
So I think Tanya's prediction and Gail's prediction are probably right about 99% of the time, that when we express gratitude to somebody else, wholehearted gratitude, non-manipulative gratitude, but gratitude with the intention to connect and so forth, that the other person's going to enjoy hearing it. Right? And so this is the out breath. This is you breathing out. You're expressing your honesty to somebody else in a way that gives them oxygen. And what's the effect for you if the people that you're relating with are a little bit happier? How does that affect you if the people that you're relating to are happier? It goes without saying, right? Because nobody's saying it. But people, if the people in our lives are happier, it's easier for us to be happy. That's my experience. If Jory's happy, I'm happy. If I'm happy, Jory tends to be happy. So we can start creating this virtuous cycle with gratitude that can really feed a relationship. In fact, one metaphor that I picked up, I don't know, gosh, it's been 40 years now since I picked up this metaphor, is that a relationship, any relationship, is like a creature. Like when Jory and I came together as a new, I'm Jim and I'm always going to be Jim. She's Jory and she's always going to be Jory. But when we became Jim and Jory, this Jim and Jory creature was formed. And now it's almost 43 years that we've been married. So 43 years of this new entity called Jim and Jory. And if part of why we have been sustainable for 43 years is that we consciously feed the relationship in various ways. And that's what the iGiraffe is all about, is various ways that we can feed the relationship. And the easiest and most accessible way that I know of is to express gratitude. And so one idea, if you want to have more fun and more connected relationships, is share more gratitudes more often. Make it a practice. Sarah Joy, go ahead.
I just want to say that I really liked the exercise until you got to the request, because my son, I did it with my son, and I, was thanking him for coming all the way from Alaska with birthday gifts for me, really delicious wild Alaskan smoked salmon, stuff like that. And then as soon as you said to, ask him to reflect how that made him feel, I could just see on his face, like, I didn't want to hear any words. I mean, all I needed to see was his smile, and I knew how he felt. And so I was just curious, why would I need to ask? I mean, is that kind of, am I looking for something in this, response, more something than I already got from his smile? I don't know. I just thought.
It's a great question, and I would really trust your intuition about it. So why do we ever, I mean, your question is actually even deeper than you probably realize. It's why do we ever open our mouth? And when we do open our mouth, what do we want back from the other person, if anything? Right? And so I think that's something that we're constantly checking and measuring from moment to moment. I'm saying some words right now to you, Sarah Joy, and in a minute, I'm going to probably end on a clear and present request, because I want to sustain the sense of connection that we've got. Does it require words to connect? No, not always. Sometimes the words can be a great strategy to deepen the sense of connection. So that's why I would make a feedback request after sharing a gratitude, is because I would like to be fed back. That's why they call it feedback. When I hear the other person's response to my honesty, then it feeds me, and I know I might learn from somebody. It's hard to imagine, but I might learn that I don't want to hear your gratitude. It's really uncomfortable for me when you share something that I did. It's embarrassing. Then I want to be able to put my giraffe ears on in that moment and empathize with that. Oh, so that's challenging for you to hear gratitude. Yeah, it is. Yeah. And so would you prefer that I not share my gratitude with you? Oh, no. I want you to keep sharing with me. Just don't ask me how I feel about it. Okay, so you want me to share my gratitude with you, but you would like me to just maybe tune into the nonverbals? Is that what you would like? And just kind of enjoy the sense of connection that we have? Yeah, that's what I want. So we worked it out. That wouldn't have happened without my request. So that's the only reason why that I can think of, is because I want to enhance and sustain the connection. Does that make sense to you, Sarah Joy?
Yes, I appreciate the way you fully walked around that whole example and gave different examples as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I really want to encourage all of us to trust our intuition about when we use any strategy, nonviolent communication being a system of strategies, but to really get connected to the needs, and then to follow the intuition about how to get those needs met. Siva?
you know, all this sounds lovely when you say it, but it's really tough when it's somebody who's almost always in your life. It's much harder. So here's a typical situation. I want something from a person always in my life. And I ask for it, 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 and it doesn't happen.
Uh-huh.
So
So you're curious, are you feeling curious and wondering what it is that's preventing the other person from giving you what you want?
Yep.
Yeah. So why don't you play it out with me? You don't have to name names or anything. I can be anybody. So why don't you try delivering your request to me, and I'll let you know what happens in my body when I hear your request.
Is it supposed to have gratitude in it?
Well, I don't know if hers is not. I'm going to be open to see what it comes, because just like real life, I have no idea what's going to come out of the other person's mouth. So I'm always unprepared. It's always a
Okay.
surprise. Go ahead, Siva.
who goes first?
Go ahead, Siva, you go.
It's hard because I don't want to say specific personal things.
I understand.
So maybe
What-
somebody else would like to.
Why don't you turn it into a metaphor? What's it like? What's the thing that you would like to ask for? What's it like? Is it?
I want somebody to be more educated about something, because this person is a representative to a bigger community and doesn't really know what he's talking about.
Aha. So you want to, if I'm the other person, there's some information you'd like me to have.
Yeah, I'd like you to read some books.
Yeah, there's some books you'd like me to read, and so far I haven't read them yet.
You haven't read a single book in your whole life since you've been an adult.
Yeah, yeah. So go ahead and ask me to read a book, and then I'll tell you. You pretend like we're having this conversation. You're really ready for it, and you've gotten permission for me to have the conversation now. Ask me to read a specific book.
Okay. So would you like to know more about X, Y, and Z? Or do you feel like you already know enough?
Well, I'm always trying to learn. Learn. You know me. Learning is important. I'm a lifelong learner. Thanks for asking.
So are you willing to read some books?
I don't know. What book are you suggesting?
Well, there's a whole collection of books about the particular topic. So take your choice.
Is this something that you would like to read together and then we talk about it?
That could be, might be a way to do it.
That would be more fun for me if I had the
Well-
sense that it was something that we were doing together.
What does it mean to read together? How do you imagine that?
I imagine we might have, say, let's say we're going to read Jim's book. Do a little shameless plug here. We're going to read Jim's book, and how about it's not a very long book, not too much. So how about we read separately? We read the introduction, and then tomorrow at lunch, we talk about it for 10 minutes. Would that work for you?
It would work for me, but I don't think it will work for my partner.
Yeah. Well, we'll never know unless we ask.
I have asked.
You've asked for this specific strategy of talking about something together?
No, any particular book, we haven't got to your book, but I have suggested Marshall's book.
Yeah, so here's my guess, and I don't know who you're talking about. I don't need to know, but my guess is this person has something going on about reading, either about reading or about authority. So I'd stay.
No, it's not. It's about time.
It's about time. Okay, so they really want to protect their time. Yeah. Okay. So if that's what I'm working with, then I get creative about how we can do this together. Like maybe we listen to it together in the car if we're ever together in the car. We listen to it and stop. So anyway, I don't want you to shoot down all the ideas. Like Ted Lasso said.
I've tried that. I've tried it. It doesn't work.
So that didn't work that time. That didn't work that time.
No,
Yeah.
it's too dangerous because
Oh,
in a car, the driver has to really pay attention.
I see. And this other person is often the driver, and so they might be worried about needing to pay attention. Mhm. Okay. So then the other time that you can read by listening is this is what Jory and I do, and then we need to move on to the next piece. I think is we listen to books just as we're falling asleep, and then we'll talk about it in the next morning at breakfast. Anything that's up for us. And so even if a book is boring, it doesn't matter because we fall asleep. So it works pretty well. So that's one idea you could try.
No,
Yeah,
we're not
you're pretty
sleeping
hopeless that
in the
anything's gonna work.
same bed. We're not falling asleep in the same place.
Aha. But okay, so I bet, well, I'm sure we could brainstorm it, but I want to move, I want to move on for right now. Okay, Siva?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So if this resonates with anybody else and they have another suggestion, I'd like it.
yeah,
I'd
put it
like
in the
to
chat
hear.
for Siva. Yeah, that's a doable request. I like that very much, Siva. Dominic?
Yeah, I'd like to share a little bit about the gratitude to the intention and effort, not the end result. Like my experiences with my wife, sometimes she blamed on me or judged me on something. I was not feeling too good. But however, if I put the empathy over there, then I say, well, behind your language, I realize you care about me so much. So you frustrated. You think I don't love myself enough. And you have expectation because you care. So the end result was I did not feel good. But the intention and the effort was great.
Yeah.
So I show my gratitude to her intention, and that turned unhappiness to happiness.
Yeah. I really like your insight, Dominic, that you can always empathize with the intention, even if you don't enjoy the impact. You can always empathize with the intention, even if you don't enjoy the impact. This is a very powerful clue for building more effective and fun relationships. And I think it'll show up here in our chart, but indirectly. But basically, it's always seeing the positive intention of another person. And one way you can do that is to practice the skills of I'll work on me and you work on you. So, and this might also be a little bit about what might be going on in Siva's experience, because often in high involvement relationships, like with business partners, children, parents, people that we live with, romantic partners, because we're so close to the other person, we might think we have some good ideas on how they might improve as a person. So we might think that maybe they could benefit from more a change in their diet, for example. Maybe we notice they eat French fries every day and we think it's not such a good idea to eat French fries every day. Or maybe we think they would benefit from a class or a book or more exercise or whatever it is. And so our focus is extrinsic on the other person, and the story that we have that we're not taking responsibility for. I'm talking about me now, not you. When I think that Jory should fill in the blank and read a book or change her diet or whatever comes after the should, then then what's underneath it is some kind of unexpressed expectation that I have. And so I want to get clear on what's going on in me before I make this request of the other person. And so that's the inner work. I want to work on me before and then I want to give you the opportunity to work on you if you want to, but only if it brings you the joy of a child feeding a hungry duck. I wouldn't want you to do anything that that didn't really that you didn't sense would enhance your life, because it's related to the idea of freedom. I want you to be free to follow your intuitions about what strategies you want to use to make your life more wonderful. So I really want to acknowledge freedom. On the other hand, let's say that the thing that I want from you, I think would really improve your life, is that I would like it if you would give me more gratitude. I'd like to have more appreciation from you. If you would just give me more appreciation, then I would be happy. That's the story I have. Underneath any kind of I want to work on you story is a story that that it'll make my life more wonderful if you change. And I want to turn that around. I want to say, okay, if I want more gratitude, what happens if I can make that an intrinsic behavior? So I will take responsibility for sharing at least 3 gratitudes with my partner every day, and I'm going to find out what happens. Or if I want more help with chores, then I'm going to maybe say to my partner, is there something that you would like me to help you with today? So I'm going to model for the other person what it is that I would like. And that's a way to acknowledge both my own self-responsibility as well as acknowledging the freedom of the other person. Francesca, you have a hand up? I can't hear you yet.
Okay, sorry. It took me a little while to get it to unmute. I mean, I've been working on gratitude for a number of years. And the examples that I'm going to talk about are not an internship, but I have a friend that had made a suggestion when I talked about headaches, and he said, why don't you get Kaiser to do a sleep study? That all went by, and that's passed. And then that might have been 6 months ago. And I just emailed him and said, I just want to thank you so much for what you did. And now I have a CPAP machine and these other things are being positive. And you were the one that got me to do it. So I just want you to know I'm most appreciative about it. And that was one example. And another one was my choir director. He's talking about something and he's really great. And after he talked about something, wanting us to do, or I can't even remember what it was, but after we were all done privately, I went up to him and I said, you know, you are so wonderful with us. You are, and I said very specific things. You're this, and I can't remember. It was, I've done it more than once with him.
Yeah.
And he just smiled and said, thank you so much. So, I mean, I've been working on gratitude for maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
But all it has to be is a little, just a little, a little drop.
Yep. Yep. It's the sweet sauce. It's the special sauce. It's the secret sauce, whatever you want to call it. And it's the easiest, as far as I can tell, it's the place where we have the most leverage in our relationships. The other person is not required to do anything different for us to express our gratitude. We might have to do something different. We might have to sharpen up our intention. We might, for example, we might think something like, I want to pay attention to my kid, and I want to watch for anything they do that contributes around the house. That's going to change everything, because I'm changing what I'm perceiving because of my intention. And that's going to set me up to be able to then give them gratitude for the gifts that they give around the house. So that's a
And
wonderful.
I mean, I didn't have to say anything,
No, you didn't.
but it was just an opportunity to say thank you in a
Yes.
way.
And it
I mean,
fed,
it wasn't,
it fed you and it fed them when you did it. That's the other thing about gratitude is it is the it's like the ultimate example of compassionate giving and receiving. Because when you give the gift of gratitude, they're going to receive something, but you're receiving something from the giving of it as well. Pooja? Thanks, Francesca.
I had a question come up. When you say giving the gift of gratitude, are you just saying thank you or appreciating verbally, or doing actions?
I was specifically talking about sharing, using my honesty to share gratitude.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question to that. In the past, I've run into scenarios where I have expressed appreciation and gratitude and thankfulness. And then the response has been that, but I don't need a thank you. I would rather have you help me out.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's certainly possible. You never know what's going to come out of somebody's mouth. And so that's why, and that's, by the way, to go back to an earlier question, why I might choose to end on a clear and present request. Like, how do you feel when you hear me say that? Because it's such a cultural, it's almost in every culture that I've been aware of, that there's some kind of a phrase when you say thank you, that the other person says, no problem, or whatever it is, de nada, in Spanish, it's de nada, it's nothing. And so we have this tendency I think it goes to the old story that we're not supposed to be seeing ourselves as important, you know? And so if we're seen for doing something important, then now we've put ourselves in the uncomfortable position of being seen at all, right? And so then if somebody else sees us, oh yeah, you know. So I think it brings up a lot of potential cultural baggage. And so I want to be ready for empathy if that happens. In fact, we were in China a few years ago, and we were talking about gratitude, because we always talk about gratitude, right? It's just one of the easiest ways to talk about nonviolent communication. And somebody raised their hand and they said, I don't think you understand Chinese culture. And I said, well, I don't disagree with you. This is only my second or third time in China, and I'm sure I'm 99.99999% ignorant of Chinese culture. What would you like to share with me? And he said, well, here in China, we don't want to hear gratitude. I said, oh, really? So if I were to express to you right now something that you did that I enjoyed, you wouldn't want to know that. And he said, that's right. And I said, okay, well, let's just test that and just see. I trust your experience. I trust what you're saying is your experience. And but let's just check it with everybody else. How many of the rest of you in the room, there's 30 people in the room, how many of you would like to live the rest of your life and never receive gratitude from anybody again. Do you know how many people raised their hand? Nobody raised their hand in China. So I tested this theory that people in China don't want to receive gratitude, but I was still really curious. I said, well, what do you think is behind this? He said, well, we're taught from a very young age not to stick out. In fact, we're told from being very small children that you never want to be the nail that sticks out of the floorboard. Otherwise, someone's going to come and smack you down. Oh, so now I'm starting to get much more clarity about what it might be like to grow up in China. And I see that it's just like it was when I was growing up in Georgia. We must have been Chinese or something, because we were taught down south to never show up in a way that brought attention to you. And so now I was really connected. It was because this person had he found his power to question the authority of the trainer. And I was so appreciative, and I let him know. And guess what? He liked hearing my gratitude, he told me, when I shared my gratitude with him later. So the worst thing that can happen is we get an opportunity to connect if we share our gratitude and the other person doesn't like it. Rob, Bernie's dad.
Yeah, somehow from my upbringing, that word rings out, don't be selfish. So, yeah.
That's some deep programming we all got, right? Don't be selfish.
Yeah, very deep. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the way that I would reframe it would be, because I'd like to figure out what am I be able to share with my kids if I had kids again, which I won't because I'm 67. But what would I say instead of don't be selfish? I would probably teach my kids to be interdependent and do the best we can.
Oh.
Interdependence in the house.
Or to be receiving, you're worthy of receiving. Maybe that's
Worthy of
more what
receiving.
I'm saying. I didn't feel worthy, or it's like I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, to actually enjoy that you have a birthright as a human being to have your needs met. Have your needs met.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's our birthright. Yeah. Complete, Rob?
Yep.
Isabel.
So as somebody who swims in both cultures, East Asian and Western, it's very difficult because I express my gratitude, and the Koreans here tend to do many different things, among which my husband is the most difficult. He acts like he didn't hear it. He changes the subject, and or does what the other husband said, or the other person said, why don't you help me elsewhere? This, or smirks. So over the years, I have come to read between the lines. Like, it won't show, but sometimes I can tell from the little subtle change in his facial expression that perhaps he is appreciating. He does his best not to show. And so the gift from him in that sense is that I learn how to read between the lines. But bottom line is, it's really difficult to live as a Western value ridden person in this East Asian, even though I keep telling myself this is all for my own good. It really hurts.
It hurts sometimes. It's a big challenge.
It is, because there is, this kind of a gut desire to receive that acknowledgement is so strong in me, but I just will not get it here. Yeah. And it's like those times when I would walk in the streets smiling at other pedestrians, thinking that I'm still in Brazil, and the other person would just come to me and say, what are you smiling at? So whereas in America or elsewhere, you can smile at pedestrians, here, if you keep a gloomy face, that's fine. Nobody will question you. But this moment you smile, that's questionable.
Hmm.
Again, it's really difficult living 40 years in this
Yeah.
because I'm just built differently.
Yeah.
Love to share that. Thank you.
Thanks, Isabel. Thank you. And I see Siva and Dominic both have your hand up, but I want to make sure that I wonder if you guys would be willing to wait so I can blast through the rest of the review, get people practicing, and then if you would write down whatever it is you wanted to share. Next time we open up the sharing, I'd love to hear from you two. Would that work for you too? I see Dominic nodding his head, and there's something so alive in you, Siva. You can't wait. Go ahead.
I think you missed the point, Jim, and that is that when somebody thanks you in some cultures, and maybe Isabel is thinking about this, is there's an obligation that those, if you're thanked for doing something, then it's an obligation that the one who is thanked is supposed to reciprocate in some way. And you haven't talked about it.
Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. The reciprocal obligation is something that I think is embedded in lots of different cultures.
That's called connection. A meaningful connection is that kind of thing.
Without the obligation. That's right. I would.
No.
Yeah, I mean, in the model of the world that I want to live in, nobody does anything out of duty or obligation, but only out of the joy of compassionate giving and receiving. You might see things differently, but that's the model that I'm teaching from and doing the best to live from. No obligation, no duty, no have to, just pure choice connected to life.
Right. It is my choice, but that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody doesn't feel they have to do tit for tat.
I understand. Yeah, I understand that other people may still have that sense of duty or obligation. And so do I. Sometimes I it still lives in me. I notice it. So let's blast through the rest of this so we can get you guys practicing. I got to go back one screen here. So other pieces of the of what we've been covering, I'll just try to say a sentence or two about each, is to refuse submission. Now, this relates to the idea of never saying yes unless you're connected to your needs. That's how you would say it in a positive way. Never say yes to somebody else's request unless you're connected to your own needs. And that's how you would refuse submission. And the reason that you would want to refuse submission is to avoid violence. Submission is one of the root causes of violence because of exactly what Siva was talking about. We get into this idea of, oh. The other powerful thing that you can bring to agreements, to relationships, is clear agreements. Agreements that have been negotiated non-violently. Another thing that you can add to make relationships more meaningful is more fun. What can you do to add to fun in your relationships? How can you play more? Or add play to the relationship? Then last week we focused on engagement or flow, very much related to fun. What can you do to have more experiences of ecstasy in your relationships? Even with your kids, even with
more experiences of what?
Of ecstasy.
Oh, ecstasy. Okay, sorry.
And I'm not talking about the pharmaceutical ecstasy. I'm talking about and then finally, the last piece is support. And this is very much related to I'll work on me, you work on you. that although I want to take responsibility to work on myself, I may ask you for your support. And I may offer my support to you if you ask me, or if I empathize that you might need it. So I want to be available to share my energy with you. So you could think about all of these elements of relationship as different kinds of skills. And we're going to show up with any of these skills on a continuum. And the continuum is dynamic. So we're not permanently at any of these places, that we might shift our skill with any of these things, depending on the circumstances, including whether we had a good night's sleep or just had a bad burrito or whatever. All that can matter in terms of whether we have access to a skill. So I want you to think about your own continuum between being unskilled and to be integrating a skill. So for example, and we'll use a skill that we're not going to talk about for the rest of the day, but it's tying your shoes. Everybody here probably knows how to tie your shoes, but that wasn't always the case. There was a time when you didn't even know what a shoe was, much less how to tie it. And that's what we would call unskilled, or zero, on the continuum of skills and consciousness, if the skill was tying shoes. So you're a 2-year-old, and then suddenly you become 3 or maybe 4, and you begin to awaken to the fact that adults sometimes put on shoes on me or on themselves, and then they do something with some strings or something. And so we awaken to the idea that there's something that can happen with shoes. And maybe eventually we learn that it's called tying shoes. And then we might get really curious, and we might ask mom or dad, or mom or dad might offer to teach us how to tie our shoes, or maybe a teacher or a friend. And so then comes a period of training and practice where we try this new skill on, and we increase our ability to do the skill. At first, it seems impossible, and we're never going to be able to do it. We keep forgetting, we screw up, we have to start over. But eventually, as time goes by, we practice, and eventually we're able to tie our shoes while we're also watching cartoons or eating our breakfast or whatever it is in our multitasking world as a 5-year-old or 6-year-old. And so we move from unskilled 0 to integrating 10. Okay? So now let's think about these iGiraffe skills. And I want you to just rate yourself on each of the skills on this continuum from unskilled to awakening. So think about the skill of gratitude. Gratitude in your relationships. Where would you put yourself on the continuum? Then consider the skill of self-responsibility. I'll work on me, you work on you. Where would you put yourself on that continuum? I'll take responsibility for working on me, and I'll honor your intention to work on yourself. Then consider the skill of refusing submission, or only saying yes when connected to your needs. How would you imagine, where are you on the continuum with that skill? Then think about agreements. Non-violently.
Jim, is the score up to 10?
Yeah, 0 to 10.
Thank you.
The next skill is agreements. How would you rate yourself in your ability to have non-violently negotiated agreements that include everybody's needs? Non-violently negotiated agreements that include everybody's needs in the relationship. Then consider the skill of freedom, acknowledging your freedom to choose and acknowledging the other person's freedom to choose. Then consider fun. How about, where do you put yourself on the continuum of having fun in this relationship? How about entering flow states in the relationship, doing something that engages you in the relationship, something that you do together that you both enjoy? Then consider the skill of, you might even break this one down to two skills. Receiving support from the other person, your own willingness to receive their support, and then giving support to the other person in the relationship. Then consider purpose. Do you have a clearly defined purpose or intention in the relationship? And finally, considering, are you showing up in this relationship as the best version of yourself? So wherever you are on the continuum with any of these skills on the scale of 0 to 10, wherever you are is absolutely perfect for you. And your honesty that you've given yourself will help you to move from wherever you are to wherever you would like to be. And so let's go back to your small groups and talk about what this experience is like for you, to think about your relationships on these various dimensions. So I'm going to change the timer so that you have 15 minutes to talk about it. So about 5 minutes each. And the idea is that you just share with each other what comes up for you. I would like you to focus on especially talking about your strengths. What do you see as the strengths that you identified as you did this relationship self-assessment? What strengths? Mary, I see your hand. Do you have a question about the practice?
Yeah, I have a question to ask about refusing submission. You said never say yes unless you connect to your needs.
Right.
But my question is that when you are facing somebody who is say violent or dominant, and we intend to say yes. Although it's out of fear, but also it always connects to some needs inside of us
Mhm.
to survive, to keep the
Yeah.
peace.
Yeah.
So,
So if you're connected to the need, then I would put myself at one end of the scale. If I've noticed that I'm saying yes without being connected to my needs, then I just put my pointer at the other end of the scale. I wouldn't analyze it too much. It's just really to make an observation for yourself. And then if you notice that it's an area that you'd like to grow into, then we can come up with strategies to help grow into each of these skill areas. Okay.
okay,
All right.
thank you.
Sure. We can talk more about it as the weeks go on. So let's go to small groups now. And we will, I might have to do some adjusting because people have come and gone, but about what you're taking away from our session today. Just was talking with Isabel. She has to leave early, so I got to hear a little bit from her. So if you have not spoken yet today, I want to make a special invitation for you to speak up. I know that both Siva and Dominic have something on the. I'm holding that as well. Okay, great. There's Sharona, and then Julia.
This is Sharona speaking. I'm very inspired by my partners in the breakout room today. And in the last breakout room, we talked about our cultural situation in regards to the expression of gratitude in relationships, and a lot of how I describe it as cultural conditioning. Yeah.
Wow. I wish I could have been there. I bet I would have learned something.
Yes, about how I'm grateful about my inner growth. Yes, about how I face all this conditioning with the learning of NVC. Yes, that although I'm still, like my friends would say, my head is wrapped as a bound feet around my head. Yeah, still I can see that I did a lot of work to
Yes,
that.
you have.
Yes, that's my learning. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharona. Juliana, then Carolyn.
So, Jim, I'm so grateful to you and to Jory for this these wonderful sessions on relationships. What I particularly remember for today is that an intimate relationship is like a living creature, a living creature, and we can really nurture it. And these different areas in which I can nurture it, and like gratitude is the sauce that I can feed the relationship with, lovely little things, and so many areas, so many, like say, all of these areas where I can really grow more. Thank you so much, Jim. For this.
You're welcome, Juliana. Thanks for being here and thanks for the feedback. Carolyn? Carolyn looks frozen on my screen. I don't know if that's on my end or her end.
Yes, to unmute.
She's muted.
Unmute.
Carolyn, unmute.
There you go, Carolyn.
Okay. So what I was saying is that I think Juliana just said just about everything that I feel also, Jim. So I found this session, even I came in late, but you had so much in it that I think is so valuable to me. And this last little exercise was really interesting and great to learn. I find it really easy to understand, and I really look forward to applying it. And I guess especially I was saying to the other two in my group, gratitude, it seems like that's something that's would be pretty easy to use, and to start with. and then kind of work into some of the others. So, yeah, so thank
Yeah,
you very
wonderful.
much. Wonderful.
That's great. Yeah, I really, I'm with you that the most leverage we have is with gratitude, because it's totally something within our control. And I really recommend that as an easy way to practice NVC and to start enriching our relationships. Very, very grateful for that. Thanks, Carolyn. And Rob?
Yeah, I'm just feeling some embodiment with the work somehow, especially, well, I just loved hearing from one of the members of our group. I wanted her to speak up, but she hasn't raised her hand, I guess. But it was just so encouraging to see her growth, and hearing about her growth met my need for growth, and kind of reflecting on my own growth and how I shared with you earlier, Jim, how I was having a fight with my partner, and I couldn't come to the meeting before until I rushed in there at the beginning, and it wasn't done in kind of relaxed style, but had to have some communication because we were fighting, you know. So yeah, she said, "You've got to read 5 Ways to Craft the Perfect Apology before I talk to you." You know, I have it here before me. I said, "Well, I know NVC. What do you know?" Anyways, but so that's the fun of it anyway. But yeah, thank you. I really thank you, Jim, and the group. Yeah, especially that down under person. I appreciate her.
Yep, thank you. And Dominic, and then we'll finish up with Siva if you've still got something, Siva.
Yes, very quick. So at first, I love what we done today, the eye drops. That I just love it. Now the question I have is, if one day I am leading a training section and we use the eye drops, if one of the students asks me a question and I like to learn how to answer it, the question could be, could you tell me how you distinguish identity and strong ego, and self-centered? How to answer that question?
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a whole weekend workshop, Dominic. Juicy questions. And rather than giving it short shrift right now, here's my request. Write down the question and write down your own experience about it, and then send it to me in an email. And then we'll revisit it with the whole group next week, if that works for you. Because I think it deserves more than 30 seconds, which is really all I've got right now. Does that work for you?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. We are good.
Siva?
I want to make a plug about the power of donating. I actually wanted to go to the NVC conference in India, but then when I got down to the nitty gritty, it was way too much trouble. So I donated so much money and asked that it be doled out to particular people with the obligation that they would have to somehow communicate with me every day and let me see the conference through their eyes. And I've gotten things, and it's really exciting just to see through their eyes. So I would encourage any of you to do that kind of thing and to go to conferences yourself.
Yes, thanks, Siva, and thanks for your support. Really appreciate you supporting. Those of you who come to our class every week will notice that Sudha is not here. Sudha is a certified trainer in India, and she's actually working on on this NVC conference right now, NVC convention in India right now, and working with candidates and also working with public. And you guys help to make it possible through your gifts. And so we appreciate your gifts. If you want to continue to pay it forward, we continue to collect money both for we're finished with that particular project, but we'll be bringing another one online soon. And so if you want to give, you can give by going to that PayPal link that I put into the chat. And if it's important for you to give, then copy it now, because the chat seems to disappear in a way that it didn't used to disappear when you close Windows and stuff. So if you want to give, please do so. And also, since many of you were here in the beginning of January when we started this work, and I encourage people to take a relationship quiz then at the New York Times. And so you might want to go do it again. And if you haven't done it yet, you can do it. It's a free link to the New York Times, which is a really long URL that I just put into the chat. And it's a really cool another way to measure your relationships and to perhaps give you some insight on where you want to work on having more life-affirming relationships. These calls are recorded, and they go two places. They go on our website, pathwaystoliberation.com, as well as on our YouTube channel. And they're usually up on Tuesday or Wednesday after the class. Takes me a day or two, depending on if there's any editing that needs to be done. And Jory enjoys doing one-on-one connection and mediation. And so here is a link to make an appointment with Jory if you would like to do some mentoring, coaching, connecting, whatever you would like to call it. You can do that. She does everything on a donation basis. So no obligation there. And gosh, I think that's it for today. We will continue. I was inspired while you guys were in your small group. I was thinking, what am I going to do next week? I didn't get everything done today that I wanted to do. I was having too much fun with other things. And so next week's class is going to be called Relationship as Spiritual Practice. Relationship as Spiritual Practice. So we'll see how we can, we'll go back to the self-assessment that you did this week and see how your strength, how you can use the strengths that you identified to become the basis for how you can deepen your practice in relationship with the people that are important to you. And with that, I'm going to bring the call to a close. I see that Harmony has her hand up, but I'm going to go ahead and turn the recording off.